You may not want to hear this, Warriors fans, but this is not our year.
Super Rugby's back, baby. I've been trying to preach it to people because everyone's dropped off over the last few years. A few of the young blokes watching went, oh, God, it's fun.
Yeah.
Why is it fun?
This is our year. This is our year for the Dragons. This is our year for the Warriors. Grand final between the two of them. There you go.
This is just another indication that, whether you like it or not, League, Union is bigger than you and probably always will be.
Well, it's just, yeah.
Welcome to the DSPN.
Team New Zealand's in trouble.
He's done it again, Ricky Hogan.
The Devlin Sports Podcast Network.
Welcome to the DSPN, people. Martin, Devlin, Lachlan Waugh. Another edition of this sports podcast. Again, if you are listening to us on Rover, thank you so much. We put a whole lot of stuff out on social media. Martin Devlin _DSPN, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Thank you for supporting us. Also, if you're watching on the DSPN YouTube channel, hit subscribe. Yes, I know I ask every day, but there's a reason for that. We want to get to 5,000 subscribers. It's a real milestone, and you can help us by clicking subscribe. On the show today, Greg Martin, former Wallaby fullback, Triple M breakfast host, ranting and raving, as he always does, about all things from their side, especially concentrating on Queensland. Brisbane Broncos have made a change off the pitch at training. He's going to tell us about, and he's pretty cock-a-hoop about how his Aussie sides are going in Super Rugby. Plus, of course, casting an eye over what's going to happen. Vegas, NRL opening round. Speaking of ranting and raving, blah, 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 blah. Miles Davis joining us as well. Normally on a Wednesday, but today on a Thursday. We'll do the Tired Five, and we'll look at some of the day's biggest sporting issues. So Roger Tuivasa-Sheck saying that, hey, he's getting stopped in the streets in Vegas and being asked about rugby, not rugby league. We'll talk about that. It's probably understandable. Not everyone in America knows the difference between the two sports. England archered out of the Champions Trophy. Liverpool, yes, Premier League champions. It's going to be 20-all with Man United. It's just a matter of when that's confirmed. And a guy called Marty Sheargold, who has parted ways apparently amicably with the Triple M after comments that he made during a news bulletin about the Matildas football team. Delicate subject this. We will try and just gently walk our way through it. We begin the show the same way every day.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
This time of year, we always ask the same question. What about them Warriors then? Season underway Sunday, and all eyes on just how the team performs first up against the Raiders in Vegas. Now, forget about the hyper-promotion around the event, the fawning media coverage telling us that league is ready to crack the US market. It isn't. The salivating over the bright lights and big shiny buzz that the occasion brings. Look, I love it. I personally think it's great. It's a great promotion and everything else, but that's what it is. It's a rah-rah, hoo-ha party trip for everyone that's fortunate enough to be on it. Any trip to Vegas is. What I'm talking about right now, though, is only the reality of what might happen on the field, how the season might actually pan out. You may not want to hear this, Warriors fans, but this is not our year. What I'm about to say may hurt, but it's also the truth. This team, this squad, is simply not at the level of those elite NRL teams, your Penriths, your Melbournes, your Roosters. I think they're all too good. Shout me down and say I'm being negative all you like, but if you seriously believe the Warriors will win the chip this year, to quote the guy from the castle, tell him he's dreaming. Look, there's every chance you're going to win lotto this weekend too if you've got a ticket. It's a possibility. Is it a probability? It probably won't happen. So let's lower the sights just a little. For me, the first target is to win more games than last year. A 9 from 24 return was really poor and disappointing. A season, in fact, that it sucked after finishing fourth the year before. What truly amazes me is the zero criticism the club received for that. It's not a time for cheerleading, I don't believe. It's a time to acknowledge the reality of that failure and attempt to improve upon it. Because first and foremost, well, for me anyway, the Warriors are a professional rugby league side. They're not a promotions or a marketing company. That comes with it. The most important thing with the Warriors, in my mind, is wins in the win column and where they finish in the table. Full houses every week is fantastic. Selling a lot of jerseys is great. Opening a bar, all of that stuff is great. But it's about wins. I want my team to win. I want my team to be consistent. I want my team to make the finals every year. I want my team to win the competition. We've lost 5 highly experienced players. Something like 800 plus games of hard-ass NRL combat vets have gone, which in turn means we now have a team of guys, well, a lot of them who might be hungry and ready, but the reality also is they lack the big match temperament and sheer week-in, week-out experience that the likes of Tohu, Sean Johnson, Jazz brought to the team. I'm not pessimistic. I'm just being 100% realistic. I'm hopeful without being overly confident. But look, as always at this time of the year, here we go again. There's so much anticipation and expectation, and you know it's a roller coaster. You know it's going to be up, down, and all around. There's going to be plenty of highs, and there's going to be some god-awful lows, because that's who the Warriors are, and that's why people love this team. Winning the comp this year ain't happening. That's a pipe dream. Making the 8 is the target I set. Let me repeat that. Make the 8. Do that, and yes, the season would be a real success.
Devlin.
Our good mate Marto, former Wallaby fullback, he's a Triple M breakfast host out of Brisbane. We talk sport, of course we do, but I want to know what other weird stuff you've been up to. And when I say weird, being a celebrant and marrying a man in his car on Valentine's Day, that defines weird, doesn't it?
Not just weird, Marty. I keep people up to date on what's happening in our big city here at Brisbane, and things like there's a big Navy ship has pulled into the Brisbane port today, and so I warned all the prostitutes that they might be getting busy. Things like that.
Hang on a second. When you say a big naval ship, it doesn't have a Chinese flag. It didn't have a Chinese flag on board, because there's a couple of them out there in the Tasman Sea firing off.
That's how I came to it. I didn't just immediately want to talk about the Australian warship. I said, what are the Chinese seem to be doing a lap of Australia, which is very popular. They're grow nomads, they're known as, the people who do a whole lap of Australia. So I think that's what the Chinese ships are doing. They're just, oh, yeah, Australia looks like a nice place. We might come and visit here one day. Well, all your relatives are already here. And I just said, well, what are the Australian Navy doing? And I did a quick check on BoatWatch, and we don't have many ships.
No.
And the one in Brisbane they're all on leave. So therefore we started talking about what do able seamen do when they're on leave. And
that's how you got into that. Look, our government's hilarious, because, we just send out memos.
Have you got any ships?
Well, define.
Jet skis?
Nothing at all that would worry them. And when please explain, please, that is as military as we get. Please explain. Can you explain what you're doing?
I know we like talking sport, but did you see how they spotted them? Our Navy and your Navy, or our Defence Forces, our border, whatever you call them, none of them saw it. It was a Virgin pilot flying between Australia and New Zealand who looked down and said, what's that down there? That's how it was discovered. So, as long as our pilots are keeping an eye out, we should be safe.
That's how they discovered the Japanese aircraft carriers at Midway, though, wasn't it? A guy, oh, look.
What's that?
Yeah, that thing down there.
Yep, we've come a long way.
NRL this weekend, kicking off in Vegas. Hey? 2 games. I mean, your Broncos have got to park those for a second, but how do you see those going? Are the Warriors going to be the Canberra Raiders?
Well, I would have thought so before the incidents of the last week, where NRL's gone to its normal.
It's safe place. I call it its safe place.
Safe place. You'd think the problem is that would have brought, trouble always brings teams together. So the Raiders will actually have looked inside and say the whole world hates us, that sort of thing, and they'll actually go, all right. I did tip the Warriors, though, mate. The Wars, even without Dallin, with tennies, they'll have a good season, I think. Well, who knows, mate? It's week 1. We've only seen some trials. Who knows?
Can I ask you, what were you more surprised about? The fact that a couple of players got up to no good in Vegas, or the fact that there isn't 50 stories like that?
Well, there probably is. They said, we immediately want to apologise. It was 4 days later when they apologised. What they meant to say was, immediately after we were caught out, we apologised.
Yeah, that's it. But don't you like the NRL? Because at least the NRL, what I think the NRL do, is it's almost like it's part of the NRL. They know that these guys are going to be doing this. With rugby, hide it under here. Don't mention it. Hopefully it goes away. And if somebody brings it up, it's your fault for talking about it.
That's right. But who goes to Vegas with men whose job it is to belt each other and think that there's not going to be a little bit of trouble? You know where the trouble is? It's all the Aussie tourists going over there and getting stuck into it. They're the ones who are causing all the trouble. So, I don't know, bloody rugby league. There'll be more trouble. The other trouble is this is the weekend where the other 13 clubs sitting here at home, none of them have got a trial this weekend. So it's their last weekend to get on the wobbler.
Yeah.
So, and they will, and they'll. That's where it's weekend. It's a rest weekend, I call it. Not as in resting, as in arrested a number of players here in Australia.
Meanwhile, I call them the Bronco nightclubbers. How's your team of nightclubbers going to go this year? I mean, on the dance floor, shirts off, popping it, they'll be going, great guns. But on the field, though.
Let's just forget all that. Those days are gone.
Oh,
Kevin Walters
right.
has been ushered out the door. He was head party director, apparently. Now they got a bloke called Madge Maguire, who, of course, coached the New South Wales Origin
and
team.
And the Kiwis.
And the Kiwis. I forgot about the Kiwis. Right. Yeah, and had a lot of success because he's a hard taskmaster. So the acetone's been out at training. They've all taken their nail polish off. They've got the bolt cutters out. They've got their earrings out. Can't hide their tattoos. And they're no longer, mate, it's fair dinkum at training, because it's only about a kilometre from where I am now. You go to their training run, and there's about 400 girls there every day. I don't know whether they're supposed to be at school or they're supposed to be working somewhere. They are rock stars. He's now gone, righto, close this shit down. So no more spectators, and they've got to put their shirts on now. Because the girls were there because they were seeing these wonderful. Oh God! So they're now putting their shirts on because the sponsor goes. The sponsor goes, look, see that Kia on the front of the shirt.
I'm paying for
a lot of money for that. They haven't got the shirt on. So
Billy Slater reckons that they're making the grand final. You're making the grand final.
I would say so, mate. I've never seen it. Now, last year they didn't look. You can see footballers and just go, oh, he's not all that fit. The muscles aren't defined, or there's a little gut. Looks like you and me poking out. Now they look tremendous. You need luck to get there because of injuries and all the rest of it. But the Broncos, they got the talent. They just didn't work hard enough. And this Madge Maguire, he's got them working hard. So there you go. I reckon they'll go all right.
All right, Super Rugby then. And what about...
How good are we?
What about... Well, I mean, the Blues for a start. Are you shocked at that?
That's unbelievable. Especially last weekend. Was that Highlanders last weekend? No, they played last weekend. Chiefs, Highlanders. That's incredible. 0-2 for the defending champions. But let's have a look at the top six. Is that 4 Aussie teams in there? That shows what can happen when you get rid of our shit team from Melbourne and spread a bit of talent. I reckon we get rid of one more, but I'm not allowed to say which one. If we got rid of one more, we'd go well again.
Well, it used to be that you had 3 teams and you did go well, didn't you? That was
that's right.
That's
right.
Yeah.
We haven't got the talent to spread around like you guys are. You've got the factory. Somehow you open the door and just wheel another one out. We ain't got that factory. We've got limited numbers, so we're getting close to. And the other thing, here we go. We're talking about it again. Lions tour on this year.
Yes.
So
how
we come out of the blocks fast. Everyone wants to make impress Joe Smith early in the year and stay that way. So
did I not say to you last week, how long was it going to take before we start mentioning Lions tour about every single Aussie game that gets played in this? And we're already talking about it. Okay, so this weekend you got the Reds against the Force. That's a top of the table clash.
Top of the table clash. Thank you very much. See, we never were able to last years. We haven't been able to talk about Australian rugby because nothing happened. But that Force team, I'll grudgingly admit it, because for years Fox Sports used to send me over to Perth to bloody commentate. I'd never get any sleep, and they'd lose, and they were hopeless, and they were jokes. They've got some steel. What's that? The former All Black coach, Mike Cronzo.
Yeah,
and now Leon McDonald's there. Wonder what they're bringing. A bit of IQ from the All Black setup, and it's showing through. They're playing through. They're winning games in the 83rd minute. It's quite incredible what he's done. He must be a hell of a coach, and I didn't even realise it before.
Super Rugby, eh?
Super Rugby's back, baby. I've been trying to preach it to people because everyone's dropped off over the last few years, trying to go, no, start watching. And a few of the young blokes watched and went, oh, God, it's fun.
Yeah.
Why is it fun? Because someone told the referees to pull your head in and bugger off TMOs.
Have a great weekend, mate.
At ease.
The Tide 5.
5 separate sporting topics then, people. Here they come. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck saying, bit of confusion out on the streets of Vegas. Is it rugby or is it rugby league? Understandable. American fans can't expect them all to know exactly what's going on. England crashing out of the Champions Trophy, courtesy of Afghanistan. Black Caps, remember, got one match to play against India, but we're already in the semi-finals. Premier League is over. Yeah. Arsenal Forest drew. Liverpool won again today. Clayton McMillan off to Munster at the end of the year. And Marty Sheargold, a Triple M presenter, he's left mutually parted ways with his job there. I set that up at the start of the show, exactly what he's talking about. We will explain further. Let's go to Vegas to start with, though. And news clips today, Roger, saying that he's been stopped in the street and people are talking about it and they're saying, rugby, the All Blacks. And he's going, no, it's rugby league. Oh, sorry, so there's a league of rugby going on. No, it's rugby league. Look, despite what, and you've got to remember that everyone that's over there is there on a promotional trip. So the media people are there for a reason, which is to promote the event. And there's a lot of money exchanges hands between the media companies and everyone else because it's kind of like, if you're on this trip, you're there for one reason, and that is to give it the big push and the big rah-rah. So league is not taking over in Vegas. It's not taking over in the US. We've discussed this before. And I think it's perfectly understandable that people on the street there, that they don't know. When you say rugby league, they will think rugby, and as soon as you say rugby, what are they going to think of?
Rugby.
The All Blacks.
Well, the All Blacks, yes, because the All Blacks is the one thing out of both sports that is the most globally marketable and significant about the sports.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
So it's not insulting, and it's nothing
truth.
other than what Roger is receiving is just the innocence of what people know. And Las Vegas is, if you've ever been there, as you have, Lachlan, as I have, there's a crapload that goes on every day, every night, every day. This is just one tiny little thing that's going on. It's not a Super Bowl. It's not an NFL game. It's not an ice hockey game when they were the Stanley Cup winners. It's none of those things. It's just something that's going on.
Yeah.
It's like somebody playing a concert there. AC/DC are playing there in a couple of weeks. If you look at who's actually playing in Vegas at the moment, that's as important as this is for people who are going to Las Vegas.
Well, the only thing that ever would sit above other things in Vegas as something that's going on, aside from the Super Bowl, for example, last year, is whichever artist has residency.
And
right?
F1.
And F1, when that's there, because that literally shuts down the streets.
That's right.
Sorry, NRL. You know, and the NRL know this, but fans might not, teams might not.
Well, because all
you
the
don't
media
shut it
coverage
down.
that we get is just basically there's nothing else going on in that town apart from this.
It's the Australian league coverage. And in their defence, they're good at promoting their sport, but sometimes it just looks a little bit...
a little bit over
But
the
no,
top.
with the Roger thing, I mean, also, rugby league fans, the journalists, the analysts... They've always got to be in their bonded about union. They're always criticising union. They're having a crack about it. They're worrying too much about the competition, if you will. And this is just another indication that, whether you like it or not, league, union is bigger than you and probably always will be.
Well, it's just, But it doesn't detract at all from the event, okay? Let's make that
No,
clear.
no, of course not. No.
England out of the Champions Trophy. So you Joe Root, you get 120 and you go out sour as because he needed to stick around for that team. 177 was the top score today. Pakistan, that was from Ibrahim Zebra and Afghanistan. Delighted with that win. And even though they won't make the semi-finals, unless, of course, they do something extraordinary and beat Australia.
Well, you never know.
Well, that's possible, I suppose.
But
they'll be thrilled with that.
Of course. And the unfortunate thing for England, two things. One, they needed 17 off the last 14 balls. I mean, it's on a plate.
Well,
it is on a plate.
You've got your two tail enders, though, and made it.
Well, no, still, it's on any cricketer, even if it's Tim Southey sitting there who can wog it for sixes every now and then when he wants.
I thought they should have. I thought
17 off 14, that's inexcusable, as far as I'm concerned. And also, England, we were talking about, I mentioned this yesterday, that, a door's been put ajar for them with the rained-out result of South Africa, Australia. If England, can get some good results from here out, well, that involves beating a team that you're so much better than in Afghanistan. Nothing against Afghanistan, of course, they did a good job.
Oh, they should have been. Yeah,
England have just absolutely dropped the ball.
Well, Brendan McCullum's record as a white ball coach is not good. He got Kolkata to an IPL final in 2021, but his white ball record is not good. And, you wonder how long he's got in that job.
Well, he's only
just
got on the job. So.
Well, this is a team that should have made the semi-finals in their minds.
Well, okay, you can say that about any team. You can say that about Pakistan. You can say that about Afghanistan in their minds. Yeah, we should make the semi-finals. But no, I think it was always going to be a tall task to get out of that group when you've got South Africa, who made the T20 final last year, and then you've got Australia, who are Australia. That
doesn't matter anyway. We're in the semi-finals, regardless of all of that. Clayton McMillan is off to Munster. Now, we did a thing earlier in the week where we were ranking the New Zealand coaches and our top five, and he was in our top five. Dave Rennie just missed out on that, by the way, and that's because it all ended pretty badly in Australia for him. But Clayton McMillan, I was saying it's not long before he gets another international offer from somebody. I didn't know that it was going to come from a club, but he was coaching the All Blacks 15. God, why did I call it the All Blacks 15? He was coaching the New Zealand 15 against Munster. And maybe some conversations took place then. He's obviously impressed them. He's off to a rocket ride so far in the season and good coach.
Yeah, I guess if there's a path to international coaching, which I'm sure every coach wants at some point, that you do need to go and coach in those European rugby comps. That just seems to be a must on the resume. Whether he thinks he's going to get the All Blacks job anytime soon, obviously Razor's got it probably for the next, until 2031 probably.
I would think so.
So for him, this is obviously a must. And I would imagine also, nothing against New Zealand. I don't want to be one of these people who just, bags their own country a lot. But there's not exactly a huge amount of attractive sticking around for year upon year upon year upon year in Waikato, doing the same old job, when you know there are exciting opportunities out there. And Munster is that is a storied rugby side. So, no, well done, Clayton McMillan. That's a great job.
Gotta take it.
I'll tell you what, I thought about this yesterday. After we did that coach's piece, and there was a lot of names that we didn't bring up, and there's names of the past, even the recent past that we didn't bring up. There are so many spectacular coaches that we produce. And this is another almost tick in the box of New Zealand rugby. We go on about how rugby's dying and leagues taking over, which is never going to happen in this country. Sure, the game's a bit tricky to watch at times, and from a consumer perspective, there's a questionable relationship there right now. But at least in terms of what we produce, consistently we know we've got the players, but we produce without a doubt the best coaches. Without a doubt.
You can name a 15
of All Blacks, of New Zealand rugby coaches,
Okay, Premier League, we're not going to dwell on this.
Yes,
I've been saying this for days, weeks. It's over. Yeah, Liverpool have won. I think you'd won it from 20 games. No, how many have we played now?
We've played 28, I think.
Okay, yeah.
27?
Long time ago, really. Again, a comfortable win for Liverpool against Newcastle. I think the target has got to be now winning both the Champions League and
the Premier League. Now,
which is bloody hard to do, and it's not done that often. And Man City, of course, did the treble a couple of years ago.
3 times in the Premier League era that the Premier League champion has won the Champions League, which is Liverpool, you guys twice.
Yeah, Liverpool have done it twice in history. Yeah, that was 77 and 84 I think
when we won the original treble.
Which was a League Cup win as well. And
which we could do this year as well, by the way.
It's a team that is just so devastatingly good, as much as that pains me to say so. But you win games easy. You're trotting games. And Mo Salah is playing probably the best football he's ever played.
Didn't score today. And I don't think he assisted either.
But, and that you've got a fortress at Anfield, which is almost impossible to win at for any other team. And when you get into the Champions League, of course, with the 2 legs, I don't think any team in Europe can beat you over 2 legs. Maybe in a one-off final, like Real Madrid have done this over year after year, where they get to the final and they got last year, they got outplayed by Dortmund. They got pretty much outplayed by you when you lost 1-0 to them years ago. Yeah. Okay, and they win the game. But over 2 legs, no. Over 2 legs.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, Real Madrid would be the scariest team in terms of the Champions League if they were to get to the final. And I think Liverpool, if they get to the quarterfinals, we have Aston Villa if they can get to the quarterfinals, which would be quite cool. But can I just say, I know you hate us. I know you don't want to talk about it, particularly when your team is awful at the moment.
Yeah.
But this has got to be quite an out of the blue achievement. This is hypothetically, if Liverpool were to win the Premier League, good chance to win the League Cup. And if we were to win the Champions League, that's got to be the most out of blue success, really.
No, hell no.
Did anyone expect us to do this pre-season?
Well,
when City won the treble,
you've been pretty damn good for the last 3 or 4 or 5 years. You've just been up against a Man City side that has actually been spectacular.
New manager, no signings apart from an Italian bloke up front.
But as I say, it's not like you've been rubbish.
No, but no one expected us to do this. No one did. Whereas when City did the treble, look how much money you've got. You've got about 3 starting 11s. That kind of was more understandable.
Final story, and it's a bit of an awkward one, this one. I don't know really. Marty Sheargold from Triple M has been let go by the station. They call it, I quote, mutually parting ways, after comments he made about the Matildas, saying it was like watching Year 10 girls play and then shouting out during the sports news something like, is there any men's sports news? He made another comment about his appendage and nailing it to a desk rather than watching, I think, the women's soccer or something like that. This is a guy that actually, if you know anything about him as a broadcaster, just goes at everything. He really does. It's not like this is a guy who never says anything outrageous. He is Mr. Outrageous Guy. But the precedent being set here, yes, some of his comments may have been insulting. Is that enough to get rid of him? If he doesn't like a sport, you can say you don't like a sport without it costing you your job. Surely you're allowed to still do that.
Yeah, the thing, it's a difficult one because the crux of what he says, and I think we can all agree the crux of it is that he doesn't like women's football.
And that's okay, he's allowed to not like it.
Yes, however, the way he says it is wrong. He says it in quite an insulting manner.
That's true.
Also, though,
But when we talk about other sports, we rave about them all, saying this sport sucks, that sport, they were terrible, they were awful, they were horrible.
yeah, well, there's a lot of things that, you know,
Grow a thicker skin. If you're into a professional sport and you're playing it, surely you must have a thicker
I mean, because
skin.
a lot of the wording, you know, the Matildas camp, you know, there was stuff in the media about how they hope they can move on from this and they didn't want to have to face this, but now they've been pulled out of preparation.
What about moving on from Sam Kerr and her
and that's
actions?
another argument. Look what she's done, and there's not been a huge amount of criticism in the media about Sam Kerr. It's not the racial thing, it's the disgusting behaviour towards police officers being drunk, throwing up in a cab, and then refusing to pay a fine, smashing window, all of that stuff. The worst thing, I think, is that Triple M moved so quickly. And that straight away means that anyone who does anything a lot, like if someone goes on here and says, I don't like women's sport, hypothetically, I don't like women's sport as a consumer, I prefer to watch other things instead of women's sport. Is that a sackable offence?
No.
Now, that's along the same lines of what Marty has said, right?
How can that be a sackable offence?
But again, there's another layer to it because what he said is a little bit more insulting.
Do you know what? I don't like watching NHL. I like going to it live, but I don't watch it on TV because I find it impossible to watch. Because I can't see the puck and it just doesn't attract me as a sport.
So I think that...
Does the NHL then come after me for saying that? It's just an opinion.
I think the nexus of what he's saying, there's nothing wrong with it. But it's just, again, it's the delivery.
And
it's
the tone.
It's the tone. I mean, when you're saying you would rather nail something into... You don't need to say that. And he says another thing at one point where he says any men's sport on, that then really brings the whole misogynistic element into it. And he didn't say that doesn't help. So what he said was not wrong. There's nothing really wrong with it, but it's just the way he said it. And there's a bit of unnecessary insulting.
I'd like you to leave
going
us a comment about that and let us know what you think about this, because it is a really contentious issue and you're treading into a real dangerous territory here if you're not allowed to just express a natural opinion about something without it costing you in that way.
Well, but again, he didn't say it in a good manner, did he? That's the problem.
Maybe that's it.
What he said was maybe fine, but it's just don't be that insulting about it.
The DSPN.
He joins us every Wednesday normally, but it is Thursday today. It's always a warm welcome back to the old iron. Miles Davis.
It would have been a better day if your rabble had lost at home to Ipswich, but unfortunately, somehow you managed to weasel yourself a win.
Tried our best, as a matter of fact. Let's start with the Premier League then. And we talked about this last week that the title race was over. It is now, after your lot got up over Arsenal on the weekend. Great result there. Arsenal dropping more points with Nottingham Forest today and Liverpool just marching on.
I saw a stat today that Arsenal have lost, of their last 32 home games, they've lost in the league, they've lost 3. And West Ham have won 2 of those.
Wow.
So, if that was the gauge of it, we'd probably be champions of Europe. But unfortunately, we're still struggling at the wrong end of the table. And it was a win that West Ham deserved, to be honest. And I think we all thought that Arsenal would, maybe have that weakness where they don't believe that they can go and win, or they haven't quite got the depth of squad, like City have had over the years, and they're not quite hitting that dominant form. You're bound to have poor games, but Liverpool, even when they're playing poorly, they get those results. Man United under Ferguson were exactly the same. They get the results. And Arsenal have just dropped their bundle. They dropped another 2 points today, while Liverpool did the job against Newcastle. And it's 13 points clear. Okay, the Arsenal got a game in hand, but 10 points at this stage of the season, they're never going to catch them.
Well, what about your mob in the Champions Trophy? I know you're up watching that early this morning. And do you think it's 17 or 14 that you should have been able to get that, even though they were tail enders?
I think it was even. I think we were about 7 down when it was only just about a run of ball, like you're saying, to do that. And you think, we could get in there. But if you remember, before this tournament started, I did say to you that England were going to get knocked out, weren't going to get out of the group. I did say that the Black Caps were going to stroll through. So as far as that goes, I've been Nostradamus. It's really disappointing. For one brief millisecond, when we scored 350 odd against Australia, I thought, maybe I got it wrong. But I didn't. And we just, one phase or the other, we either bat well and don't bowl well, or we bat poorly and bowl well, but never both together, which is what you need to win a game. And unfortunately, I can't remember the last time we won. Probably an insignificant game somewhere.
Yeah, McCullum hasn't had a great record as the white ball coach. I'm not blaming him, of course, but it just is what it is. Do you like this tournament, though? I really like this tournament. Apart from the time zone, I like the format of it. I like the 8 teams. I like that one-day cricket. It's actually, because I love one-day cricket.
Yeah, I mean, I prefer Test cricket. I enjoy it far more than T20. And I suppose it's like you've got the World Cup, and now this is like the European Championship, like, so you've got another decent tournament with top teams playing in it every couple. So you've got a good tournament every couple of years. So I'm all for it, to be honest, and long may it continue.
Long may it continue. NRL this weekend, obviously Vegas. You're not playing. You get another week to prepare. I'm talking about your mob, St. George. What's going to happen? I mean, when's the last time you made the 8? When are you going to do anything?
Mate, I tell you, see our pre-season, mate. If we carry on that form, we'll be top 8.
Right.
Easily.
Right.
And the same with the Warriors. But the interesting thing is, I was surprised to actually see you here, considering the Warriors game is in Vegas, and you and Kingy and all the boys are well renowned. I remember you went there for the David Tua fight. You only got back last week. So I'm surprised you're not over there. But an interesting thing, mate, apart from the sort of, all the curiosity factor, a bit like when the All Blacks played in Chicago, what are they doing? Are they going to hope that suddenly the Americans are going to take up rugby league? I mean, Union hasn't really kicked off after the best team in the world went over there, or the most marketable team in the world. I'm sure there'll be a few of them who'll watch and think, oh, this is great. Look at the way they hit each other with no pads and this, that, and the other. But, are they just wasting their time? Is this just a marketing exercise or a junket?
Yeah, I think it's about the betting, isn't it? They want to get into the sports betting market. And obviously in Vegas now, the last time that I went there, they didn't have the sports bet, but that's a huge part of it now, that you can just go there and just wall-to-wall screens and TVs and bet on everything. They want to get a part of that, because you get a part of that, then you start getting the money from, you get a percentage of what's bet on it. And sports fans in the States will bet on anything like they do, all over the world. So that's more the target, I think. Look, the media and the hyper promotion about it gets a bit tiresome, doesn't it? Because they're trying to force feed us the fact that your rugby league will get a foothold. Miles, it won't get a foothold because it's a country that has grown up with all of these other sports which are embedded and they love. You're never going to beat baseball, let alone the NBA, let alone the NFL. And I haven't even mentioned hockey.
I think the only way that you'll do it, and I mean, with Trump there trying to stop any immigrants coming in, it's going to be harder. But if you slowly, the balance changing, the dynamics of the population changing, that if you've got more like Mexicans in there and South Americans and countries who football's a religion in, then you might get more of a foothold. The MLS is going reasonably well, but it still doesn't attract anywhere near that. I mean, you look at the NFL. You and I love the NFL, but it's only on for 3 or 4 months of the bloody year.
Yeah, that's it.
That leaves a massive opportunity to go and watch another game. But then you get baseball and basketball comes in, and those three just dominate. It's really hard to make any inroads into it.
Martin Nonu, let's talk about that guy before we finish on Super Rugby. At 42, he's playing for Toulon. I know that you really love this guy. We both do. He's such a character as well. He's such a good dude. But at 42, still playing professional rugby. Wow.
Yeah, I can remember Billy Bonds, I think, playing in the midfield against Liverpool when he was about 42, 41, 42. And I thought that was phenomenal. But to play it in rugby union, the toll that his body must have been through over the years, because he's not exactly, I'll just stand out on the wing and wait for someone to pass through the ball. No. He puts his body on the line all the time, and he's to thrash it up the middle. And I think Toulon as well, it's not as if they're a rubbish side. I think they're top of the top 14. They're second, I think, in the top 14. They're top of their European Championship group. So they're performing reasonably well. It'd be interesting to see how much game time he gets. And I think if you look at over his whole career, the guy's been a phenomenon. The only black mark against it, as far as I'm concerned, is when he was sort of part of that rebellion, really, against Mark Hammett in about 2012. But he soon redeemed himself after that. And generally, I mean, he's a legendary figure. And you would have thought, if you think about Martin Nonu, you thought, must be close to being a retirement home soon, but there he is, straight as stuff.
Super Rugby then. Canes Blues this weekend, and I think that the Hurricanes can just pretty much prick the Blues bubble completely and blow them out of the water. If the Hurricanes win this game, everyone is going to look at that Blues side and go, okay, yes, we can beat you. Start of the season, I mean, you read any side, any blog, any pundit you listen to is saying that they're going to go back to back. Well, this is a team stacked full of All Blacks who just aren't performing at the moment.
Well, we've seen that for you. For a start, when you say all the pundits, you mean you. You were the one who said it's going to do it, so let's get that out front.
Right.
But we've seen this before with Auckland. I mean, they've had the cattle over the years. I mean, I lived up there for 17 years, and it was such a thrill to go to Eden Park because no matter who they were playing, you knew that they were going to bomb tries left, right, and centre, and there was a good chance they're going to lose.
You support the opposition.
I really enjoyed it. But it's interesting you say that because if the Hurricanes lose, and there's a lot of hope on the Hurricanes as well, they had a decent season last year, that if they lose, they could be in a similar position to the Blues as well, start looking over their shoulder. And there's plenty of time left in the season, but psychologically, I think you're right that if the Hurricanes beat the Blues, especially following up from last week's pounding by the sort of not much fancied Highlanders, I'd love to think that they will keep going on downhill.
Do you think that the Aussie sides are better this year, or they just haven't had enough Trans-Tasman matches yet to be able to decide that? I just look at the Force who've won 2 matches, and yes, it was against MP. I know that they concede a bucket load of points every game, but beating the Brumbies away from home is never an easy task, is it? And then you've got New South Wales and Queensland who both had wins, Highlanders and MP again. But what, are we reading too much in it too early, or are the Australian sides going to be better this year?
The big talk was with one side going out that there was going to be strengthened in terms of the talent to be spread across less clubs, so which technically should or theoretically should improve the sides. But for a side like Western Force, who it wasn't that long ago that they were non-existent, and they were sort of playing the odd game in Japan against Japan or Japanese sides or some Mickey Mouse tournament. So for them to start getting those results, it's positive for them. Will it lead to wins against the New Zealand sides? We've seen it before, that the Kiwi sides, playing against each other, really battle harden them. It might injure the odd player, but they've got plenty of depth, and it's always much tougher. At home, in Australia, they might get the odd upset. I think they're better than they have been in recent years, but I still expect the Kiwi sides to dominate.
And the Warriors going to make the 8?
Yeah, of course they are. Their pre-season has been almost as good as the Dragons.
So the Dragons are making the 8?
Of course they are. Don't be ridiculous. This is our year. This is our year for the Dragons. This is our year for the Warriors. Grand final between the two of them. There you go.
Right. That's our podcasting show for today. Again, if you're liking what you're listening and what you're seeing, then a small favour, if you will. Can you please hit like, share, subscribe, follow, tell a friend about it. We are a fledgling podcast and show, the DSPN, and we need you. And if you are participating, well, just click that subscribe button. That would help enormously. Thank you so much if you already have. Again, tell a friend if you like. We're doing this every single day, putting out a show every afternoon. The DSPN.
This is the DSPN.